Hi everyone, I welcome you all in the today's podcast of Azure Developer Community. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have Natasha with us. I welcome you, Natasha, in the today's podcast.
Hi, Shavi. Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everybody.
Good afternoon. So, first of all, I would be very happy to tell you all about Natasha because she is so inspiring to me, to be honest. As the remote support group lead for APAC GoTo, Natasha incorporates her 14 plus years of IT sales, customer service, and technical experience to bridge the gap between a customer problem and a product offering. As the product specialist for GoTo's RSG suite, she plays the voice of the customer internally at GoTo and the face of GoTo's flagship remote support products. And it's an honor for me to have you in the today's podcast and to talk more about your role and how it works.
Thank you so much. That's very sweet of you to say, Shavi. I'm honored to be here and be able to share some pearls of wisdom from my experience.
That's great. That's great. So let's start with this thing only that how is your experience in GoTo as a remote support group lead APAC at GoTo? And apart from that, what all responsibilities actually you have to play as in your domain?
Yeah, to put it simply, Shavi, in my role, I'm privileged to be able to bridge the gap between, I'd say, the demand and the supply of my company, GoTo's Essential Connection Solutions, right? Just to expand on what those essential connections mean, we at GoTo, we provide companies with the tools that they need to enable connections to their employees and to their customers, and through so being able to bridge that gap between supply and demand for these essential connections through our collaboration software such as GoToMeeting, such as GoToWebinar, such as GoToTraining, as well as on the support side, bridging the gap between the supply and demand of IT support for companies to be able to support their employees and their customers through powerful remote support software such as some of our point solutions like Rescue, Central, as well as our newest IT support platform, GoTo Resolve. What I mean when I say that I bridge that gap between demand and supply is I lead, as you said, the remote support group of products within APAC for GoTo. And this includes making sure that these group of solutions, the remote support group of solutions that we offer, meets the customer needs. Sourcing feedback from thousands of customers that are using our solutions today to be able to influence our product roadmaps, to be able to influence our bug fixes and the potential vision that we have for this product line, and also making sure that our remote support solutions are visible in the marketplace in the right places, right? Especially since the adoption of hybrid working and the growth of the IT support demand in the market today, given that everybody is in a hybrid workforce. Having powerful remote support is no longer just a good to have, it is a need to have. So being able to bridge that gap between that necessity and the supply of those solutions. Yeah.
That's actually great to hear your role, and it's pretty much awesome to me. And like, there are various people out there who actually don't know about this domain. So, like, what is your take on this? Like, can beginners get into this role? Is it easy for them, or you should have some like previous experience in particular domains? Then only you can switch to this role.
Well, not necessarily, right? I've always believed in not being restricted to, what they call dogma, right? Where there are a set of rules and a set pattern that somebody has to follow to get into various careers. Like as we all know, right? We've erstwhile traditionally, kids have been brought up to study engineering, to become engineers, to study science, to become doctors, etc., etc. But that's not something that I've particularly believed in. I've not restricted myself as well to that. If you look at my career history, I've taken on so many different roles. I've worn so many different hats over the years, right? From technical support to solution consulting to sales to account management, and now to being in the RSG group lead. So whatever overlaps, I'd say, in your passion for what you think you are good at, what you love doing, what you think the world needs, and what you can get paid for. I think if whatever overlaps in between these four segments is where you should focus. If you are, of course, passionate about communication, you're passionate about problem solving, then I think a career trajectory that I followed could be something that could be relevant for you, because that's what's driven me and motivated me over the years, which is my passion for problem solving, communicating, talking to customers, like I said earlier, bridging that gap between a problem and a solution.
That's actually awesome. That's really great to hear that, and that's pretty much true. The way you shared it, that's really awesome. So moving further with that, like according to you, what is the need to keep IT management and support systems updated with the latest technologies and trends?
Yeah, the need to keep IT management and support systems updated, right? So let me put that in some perspective, right? The top strategic technology trends, if we look into the world today, if they are adopted right, by SMBs, by mid-sized companies, by enterprises worldwide, will accelerate their digital capabilities and drive growth for them by very simply solving some common business challenges for the CIOs and for the top technology executives. These top strategic trends will offer a roadmap for companies to be able to differentiate their organization from their peers, for them to be able to fulfill their business objectives, for them to be able to position CIOs and IT executives as strategic partners in the organization. So I believe personally that organizations that adopt and plan for these trends will create long-term roadmaps for, reliant, for sustainable, for successful business growth. And IT leaders are today, I think, ideally placed to determine whether these trends and disruptions are a threat for them, or whether it's an opportunity for them. And so they can realize enterprise change by actually leveraging their knowledge of business and their knowledge of technology to understand the impact of these trends on their organization.
Got it. That's really great. So, also, as per your experience, what would be the need for the tools and solutions with the purpose versus blind adoption of trends? Because as we can see right now, people are just adopting tools and the trends blindly, and they just think, like, for example,
Yeah.
if this particular tool or thing is working for you, and it turned into a trend, then it will obviously work with me as well. So that's a very wrong way the people are going with the crowd, and also this is not right. So in that case, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think you very rightly said it, Shavi. You basically the herd mentality, right? I'd love to talk about that, but before I, talk about that particularly, I'd like to first address the fact that we all live in a very uneasy world right today. From the start of the pandemic in 2020 to the Great Resignation, which happened over the last 2 years, up to today's economic headwinds. Right, we have so much of talk of a recession, and then the return to work. Right, it's been so hard to prepare for the next disruption when we are still, living through one, or we're still recovering from the last one. Right, so balancing so many different challenges all at once has changed the way that we work. Right, all of us, whether we like it or not, whether we admit it or not. Right, and it will never be the same. And so at the start of the pandemic, business leaders, IT leaders, they made decisions that had to be quick, they had to be fast, they had to be cheap, cost effective to keep their business lights on, right? And to keep the lights on for their employees as well, so to speak. So for business continuity, what they did is they had to rely on technology and tools that would quickly help them to stay connected and to help their keep their businesses running, right? So when we conducted as GoTo, when we conducted some research, we found out that many businesses implemented way too many tools as quickly as possible, right? Because they ran, they scrambled, they made sure that they had those, tools that were needed to communicate, to support, to bridge that gap between an employee and the business, right? And that's why today, after 2 years of working remotely, 95% of small businesses are reducing the number of tools that they have, and they are prioritizing the consolidation of their tech stack, right? So another thing that we've learned is working through these uneasy times is that one of the business critical things for a business that was uncovered is to protect and connect their people, right? So that their people is basically who? Their customers and their employees. So one of the business critical things became just protecting these people and connecting these people, right? And keeping their customers and employees connected ensured that not only they would be successful, but the business would be successful as well. Not only would their customers and their employees be successful, they would continue to remain profitable, right? Through whatever challenge life would throw their way. And so organizations should therefore, to answer your question about, what they should be in terms of, should they focus on purpose built or should they continue with the blind adoption? I'd say organizations should focus on tools and solutions that will ensure business continuity, that would address the shift in employee preference from working from an office to working flexibly. And they should also focus on building an overall resilient workforce that can withstand any crisis, right? So the main key thing here is the connections, essential connections, from team collaboration and meetings to IT support tools, right? Remote work has completely transformed where, when, and how employees work and how customers work. And therefore, organizations need to get behind this essential connections to meet the employee or the customer wherever he or she is.
That's so true. That's so true. And I'm really like right now, I'm pretty much sure the listeners are benefiting so much from this because the way you are sharing the insights, they are so, so, so good to them. And I guess these are few things that we are not able to figure out by our own before, because it is very difficult to have all these pointers before putting yourself, like before putting your step in the industry. So it's something that you have shared some inside knowledge about it. So moving further with that, can you please talk a little bit more on the concept of platformization, which is actually catching up in the Indian market? Like how is it working, and also right now what is the future thing that could happen on it as well, like right now, because as we actually talked about the blind adoption of the trains. So what is your take on it, like the current situation of the platformization, and also what could be the future aspect of it?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Shavi. I think speaking from our own experience at GoTo, having adopted that platformization model for, as part of our GoTo Resolve solution, which we launched and developed and launched this year, right? But just to give you a little bit of background into what that whole concept is and what's the need for it, right? Why is there so much of hype around it? Today, typical priorities of an IT leader is no longer just to, maintain efficiency, to make sure end users are supported for all their IT needs, and that they have ease of use and support is easy and accessible. Those are priorities, but those are not the only priorities any longer, right? IT needs have also, their priorities have also become to drive business growth and to cut costs. All this they have to do while constantly hunting for innovative technology, right? So they have become a center for business growth as well, in terms of a cost center, in terms of bringing profitability to the business. And so a typical IT agent that sits in the background trying to support these users spends more time navigating complex tools to solve a typical support issue than they could have in spent in resolving that issue in the first place, right, through automation or through platformization. And so given that this was the data or the feedback that we have, that data has spoken to the businesses and said, IT teams are spending so much of time just navigating tools and complex solutions than resolving issues. And given the onus on being able to drive growth and cut costs, what IT leaders are looking to are platforms. They're looking to eliminate redundancies in their network systems. They're looking to eliminate whatever solutions offer too much, take up too much of the IT reps time in resolving an issue rather than keeping the IT person or the IT representative productive, right? And so to be able to expand that bandwidth of their current teams, as well as to be able to minimize on the amount of time spent and maintain business productivity, they are looking at platformization, right? So what does this translate to? It translates to faster resolutions. It translates to improved customer satisfaction, reduced average handling times, better first call resolutions. And all of these stats, what does that ultimately lead to? It helps in turn to drive business growth, right? So as a provider, though, as a company that provides a platformization, what does it mean for providers in the world, right? Point solutions, if you think about it, provide a single stream of revenue, right? But when you think of a platform, which we define as an intermediary, uh, basically to be able to connect two or more or a dozen different groups of users and to be able to enable their direct interaction on one platform, right? So if you imagine that dozens of users or those groups of users or intermediaries connected on one platform, think about the possibilities for revenue streams, right? It can generate many revenue streams. And so platformization models bring also a shift in emphasis, I'd say, from meeting specific customer needs to basically encouraging mass market adoption. Basically, in order to, I'd say, maximize the number of interactions that they have, or from a product related perspective, of from a competitive advantage standpoint, right? Or from a network related perspective of being able to on a competitive advantage on the network related sources as well. So thinking about the network effects of connecting many users and third parties together. So all of that, what does it ultimately mean? It drives business growth. It brings in multiple streams of revenue for the provider, as well as in terms of for the consumer. It drives business growth in its own ways.
That's really amazing. And as we have talked about this so amazingly, so I would be very happy to conclude it with a really great advice from your side, that how people can just get started in this domain, and also how they should actually plan their whole journey in this particular domain. Because as I mentioned before as well, people are still somehow clueless that how this domain works and how they should step into this. So it would be great if we could conclude in such a great advice.
Yeah, thanks so much for. I mean, I'd say I'm humbled by the question, right? Because I myself am a student of continued self improvement. I try to learn from my mentors as much as possible, and I think that's one strong point of advice that I'd like to give to all to everyone listening, is always have a mentor, right? Somebody who can be someone who's walked probably in those footsteps, but a lot more, and who has lived through that journey of or at least a part of that journey of this, where you want to tread in those same footsteps, right? So always have a mentor, somebody that you can confide in, someone who can give you an outline of what things to follow, what not to follow, and can speak from their own experience, right? So that's helped me a lot I've had some very good mentors in my career, fortunately. Um, and I think in general, I'd say I've always believed in the power of systems, right? If you have a goal or an ambition, I'd say always have, systems associated with them. For example, when I started off, a few years ago in a role that would involve public speaking, right? I wanted to become a good speaker, and so for that I would need, to have the right systems in place. So this right systems that I identified were, things like practicing in front of the mirror for 30 minutes, or reading articles and literature and books on, best practices for public speaking, or basically taking these systems down, journalizing them, writing them down on a to-do list, or putting them on a sticky note on your mirror, on your laptop, but making sure you have them penned down, because goals, ambitions without systems won't pretty much get you anywhere, in my experience. And like I said at the start of this podcast, I'd say if you're good at many things, right? You might be doing your engineering, or you might be doing your business management degree, or whatsoever you are pursuing right now. It doesn't necessarily mean that is exactly where you have to end up. There is no one path to success, right? It is not a straight path from point A to point B, right? If you are good at many things, if you believe you are strongly good at many things, and you're not sure of what you want to really pursue, I'd say take a pen and a paper, sit by yourself, and make four different lists. Okay, the first is, what do you love doing? Heart of heart, what do you love doing? What are you passionate about? Secondly, I'd say, what does the world need? Right? What is the demand in the current market? What can you, of that demand, what can you be paid for? Right? And lastly, I'd say, what are you good at? Right? You might love doing something, but you may not necessarily be good at it, right? And there's always a learning curve to get better at it, but what are you good at that moment? So wherever that these four lists overlap or interjects, I'd say would be, the safest place to start. And that's what something that I have personally followed. It's helped me find more purpose in what I do. And lastly, I'd also like to say that in my specific to my domain of work, being in pre-sales, being in a solution consulting kind of role, and having worn so many different hats, right, of support, from sales to account management, and all of this to bring me where I am today, I'd say I've always had an underlying passion for what my primary responsibilities are, which is communication and problem solving, right? So if you have those similar passions, then I think any customer facing or any solutioning role would be a good fit, ideally.
To be honest, I'm very much thankful to you and grateful, basically, because this podcast is so insightful for everyone, because we are bringing a really new topic to our audience, and also it's really great to explore some new domains. And I really liked your advice when you said that it's not that, like, for example, we have started with engineering, we have to end with engineering. I really loved your line, because this is something that everyone should keep in their mind whenever people are choosing their college stream or anything. They are so much afraid, and they think that I have to end up with this only, and that's why they actually come up with so many mental illness. So that's
Yeah.
really great that you shared such an amazing thoughts
Yeah.
and your
Thanks.
views
Thank you
on
so
this.
much. Thanks so much, Ravi. I'm really honored to have, been able to contribute.
Yeah, obviously, and I'm really glad that I hosted you today. And yeah, I'll be like, all the listeners, you can just check out her like socials in the description. I have put it everything in the description. And if you want to know more about this domain, you can obviously reach out to her, and she's the perfect guide for it. As you just saw the podcast till here, obviously you can get an idea that how amazing she is in this domain and how amazing she can guide you. So she can help you with any of the query. And thanks a lot, Natasha, for joining in today, and it
Thank you
was
so
really
much.
amazing to host you.
It was awesome for me as well. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be back with some amazing podcast super.